Welcome back, aliens. My name is Navin Reddy, and let's continue with our series on SubQuery network. So basically at this point, we have learned about what SubQuery network is. We have also discussed why it is called Google of blockchain. And then we were able to get the project. In fact, we did the setup first, and then we created our first code. And then we were able to run it as well, right? So what we have done till this point, let me just give you a big go through, and then we'll build this project. And instead of running it on console, of course, we'll do that as well. Instead of running on this machine, we'll also deploy it on this SubQuery network so that your project will be public and anyone can access it on this SubQuery network with the help of SubQuery Explorer. So basically that's how you build a project, right? First you build a project, then you deploy it on the some server. Example, if you build a normal web application, you make it accessible to the entire world by deploying it somewhere. Now the best thing is SubQuery network provides you a managed service. So basically when you deploy your project there, anyone can access the data, anyone can access your project. And that's what we want, right? That's the idea of building this project. So just to give you a go through what we have done till this point, we were able to create a starter project, which was not having anything much, simple stuff. And then we are only basically handling the blocks here, right? So that's what we have done. In fact, we'll also do it for, how do we do it for normal events? As of now, we are only dealing with blocks. So basically this is your block here. And then if every time a new block is created, you are basically trying to map it. And then in the last video, we have also discussed it will take normally some time to, download some projects. And it will take some time for the syncing of the blocks. And maybe you can just wait once we do it, and then you can wait and you can see how the blocks is getting created. In fact, I have already deployed one project, which I will show you how much time it takes for the syncing. Of course, we are going to use the free service. It will take much time, but if you want to do it on a production server and if you want it fast, there's another service as well. Okay, so we'll discuss all those things. How do we do the production? What if you want to go for staging? Because sometimes you don't directly push your project on this server. You want to get the staging as well. So we'll talk about it, how that production or the staging actually works out, and we'll discuss when to use what. Okay, so basically we were able to create this project, and then every time you get a new block, you will get it here. It will be syncing. And for that, what we have done is, first of all, we need to create this schema in which you are saying, hey, I just want this for information. And that's the advantage of using GraphQL, right? You don't actually get everything which you have there. If you want only 4 fields, you can fetch those 4 fields. And basically we want the extrinsic events. And for the mapping, this is our mapping file. And then Docker is also there, which we don't have to do any changes here. It will run the SubQuery node. It will run the GraphQL server as well on your machine. So this is what we have done. Now what we'll do here is, one more thing before, we have the extrinsic TypeScript file as well, in which you have the classes which is mapping to your GraphQL. Of course, you don't have to design this class. Once you define your GraphQL schema, you can just run a code which is CodeGen, which will generate the classes for you. Now, the name of this project will be different from the last video. This is Q1 because for the last project, I did some changes which I don't want to talk about here. I was doing some experiment, so we created this blank new project which looks exactly the same as the last project. So if you are following this series and if you have done with Q, SubQ, that was project name, you can use the same project and do the same steps. So the first I'm going to do here is I'm going to build this project. Now, how do we build this project? You can use yarn or you can use npm. So I guess we used npm last time, so I will also continue with npm. So we'll say npm run script, and then you need to build this. So you can simply say build. It will take some time. Oh, okay. So I have to get into this project, which is SubQuery test. So this sub-project name is also changed. This is SubQuery text. Whatever project name you have with you, you can continue with that. So you need to build this, and by building it has given me some error. So I guess the CodeGen is also not done for this. Okay. So I'm just trying to debug what is happening here. Script is running, everything is there. Maybe the VS Code is having some issue with the project. What I will do is I will just open my code once again. And it's normal with new projects, right? Every time you work with some project and then they might be not properly synced. So let me just do that once again. SubQuery test, and again we'll say npm run script build. Okay, building done. There was some issue with the VS Code and this syncing. Maybe the project was open for a long time. And now before running this, you have to make sure that your Docker is on running state. And let me just remove all the old projects which I have here. So I was doing testing before the video and it was working. So let me just go back here and say run script, and this time we'll say start Docker. Okay, now all these commands are actually mentioned in the package.json and in the Docker compose. So when I say start Docker, it will use all this configuration and it will start the Docker for you. It might not work in first go. It is happening with me as well because of some configuration issues. So just try to restart your Docker if you face issue, and then this should work. So as you can see, your project is actually in running state. Now, how do you verify this? It's very simple. You can just go to your browser and say localhost colon 3000, and this is your query field. And you can enter your query here. So you can say query, and you can open the brackets. And in this query, you can say, I want to fetch the extrinsics. And then you can specify what criteria you want here. And with this criteria, you can also mention what are the things you need. So basically, the criteria here is very simple. You want to get first 10 elements or 5 elements, whatever you can mention, and also what order you want to go for. I want to order by with the block height in descending order. And of course, since we are running this again, it will fetch from start. And then what exactly you want from the nodes, basically you want the ID, then you want the block hash, and then you want the block height, and you want origin as well. And then just run this and you can see you will get this script. The only thing is, okay, syncing is already done on this. You can see the block height is coming with a good number. So that means the code is actually running from a long time. Awesome. If you are doing this for the first time, you might not get all the values. Cool. Now, instead of running it on local, so what we are doing is we are saying localhost colon 3000, right? So only my application which are deployed on this machine is able to use it. But what if you want to make it public? In that case, you have to publish it. Now, how do you publish it? So let's follow the steps for that. So go back to your VS Code. Now, the first thing you have to do is if you want to publish, you have to follow some steps. So there are some basic requirements for this. First of all, your project, whatever you're doing, it should be either on GitHub or on IPFS. Now, we are going to follow the steps for GitHub, which is much simpler. You can also do it for IPFS. And let me in the chat, in the comment section, if you want the IPS version as well. IPFS, not PS. And so now we are going to do it for the GitHub. So let's follow the steps for that. So you have to make sure that your project is on GitHub as a public repository, and then you have to go to project.subquery.network. This is where you are going to do this, and for that you need to use a login. So I will use my GitHub login here, and when I click on that, I already have logged in into GitHub. So you can see this is my GitHub ID, which is Navin2020. In fact, there's one more advantage of this is normally when you go for public projects or when you go for enterprise projects, we have this tendency of using organization account. So I'm using it on my personal machine or personal account, but if you want to use the organization, you can also do the setup for GitHub. So go to GitHub and you can set the organization, and you can publish this project on the organization itself. Now, since we are into learning stage, I'm going to use the personal ID as well. That perfectly works. Now, all the project which is mentioned, it will be available here. Now, this is the free service which I'm going to use. So I guess you will be having only 2 options. In fact, 2 projects at the same time. So those are the max projects you can have here, and try with different projects and let's see if that works. But I think it will only support 2 projects. Now, what are the steps you have to follow? So basically, I already have one service. So instead of going for that, we'll talk about how do we create your own project. But let me show you how my project looks like. So this is the project which I've already deployed, which is SubQuery test. And I'm not sure if I have the same name, will it work? But let's try. And if not, then we'll delete the old project. So basically, this is how the thing will look like. So you can see you need to have your GitHub repository. I already have my GitHub repository. We can just clone it from there. And this is SubQ, the old project. The new project have the same code, and I will do that step so that you will understand how do you push your project to the GitHub and how do you track it. Next, you have to make sure that you have your shared database, because in the free account you will be using a shared database. If you want a dedicated database, you have to go for the pricing model. And now I have did this 4 days ago, and only you can see 28% have been synced, because I'm not using this continuously, right? So if I use this continuously, it will be much faster, but it will take some time for the syncing as well. Now, they do provide you one more option, which is staging slot. So basically, whenever you build a project, and if your project is already deployed, and if you want to upload a new version, and that's what we do, right? Every time you make some changes, you deploy the new project. So instead of directly deploying it on the production, which will be risky, because let's say if your project is deployed and people are using it, and suddenly you're making a changes and you're pushing it, first of all, it will be down for some time because you are making a change. Second, what if your code fails in the production? We don't want that, right? We don't want the user to get affected. In that case, you will be using the staging slot. So the first thing you will do is you will push your project on the staging area and then you will publish it. And this will be your query endpoint if you want to use it in your project. And every project will have the hash value as well. So you can see we have the hash value here. And when you want to upgrade, this hash value will be important. Anything else here? Yeah, there are two things. So we have to also mention the indexer version. So indexer version currently, if you're watching this video now, it is 1.1.2. So as of recording, it is 1.1.2. The query version, the subquery version is 1.1.1. It might change depending upon when exactly you're watching this video. In fact, there's also an option you can delete this project. Maybe if you want to go for a new project or you're just doing it for testing purpose, you can delete it. And I always believe, if you're not using something, just delete the project. Don't waste the resources. I know it's free, but then don't bulk up the resources. Okay, if you want to deploy the new version, you can just click on new version, but again, don't do that in production directly. Yeah, if you don't have any user using it, you can do it. And then what if you want to explore on the Explorer in a public repository? As I mentioned, once you publish a project, anyone can access your project, right? So you can just click on this Explorer. This is how it looks like. And then this is where you can do the same query. So I already have a query written here. Let me increase the font size for you. So this is my query. You can run it. And this is the number of syncing already done. Now the beauty is this is public. So even you can access it if you have my endpoint. Okay, cool. So this is working and you can see total size is of 10 MB or 10.8 MB and currently it has only synced 3.1. Awesome. But then we don't want to use my project, right? We want to deploy the new project. In that case, what are the steps? So let me just go back and this is how you do it. So click on the create project. Now it will ask you for some certain information. Of course, you can upload your project logo. Of course, if you have a new project, you can have a new logo and you can put it here. Now, since we are into learning phase, we'll not do that. It will ask you for your GitHub account. Okay, same account which you have used. And as I mentioned before, if you want to go for the organization, and if you have the organization account, you will get the option here as well. Next, you have to mention your project name. Of course, this project name can be anything which you want. I'm saying SubQuery Q Telusko. Of course, doesn't matter what the project name is. So I will say SubQ Telusko. And then you can add a subtitle for this project. So this is my test project. And you can add some description what exactly this project does. So you can say, hey, this is used for fetching the blocks and indexing the blocks, and you can mention that here. Now this is interesting because it is also asking you for your GitHub repository URL. Now as of now, the project which we have created in the VS Code, which is in my machine, is not pushed on the server. So the first thing you need to do is you need to have your GitHub repository. So let me go to my GitHub account and I will create a new repository here. And if you have not followed me on GitHub, that's my GitHub ID, which is Navin2020. Do that. So let me create a new repository here. Let me increase the font size. And let me name this repository as SubQ. SubQ is already there. I will say SubQT. I'm not good with repository names, but give a proper name. Now, one thing is important. It need to be public. Don't make it private. So keep your repository as public so that there will not be any issue. And you can add the ignore files and all those things. And you can also put your README file there. As of now, I'm not doing it just to keep it simple, and click on create repository. So on the GitHub account, say create repository and done. You can see we have a repository. Now, how do we access that? This is your link which you were supposed to use. So you can just copy this link and paste it. Not here. This is my old project. Just paste it here. But there's one more problem, right? We don't have the project in the repository. You can see this is empty. So basically in your VS Code, you have to push your project. Okay. There's one requirement is whenever you push this project, make sure that your GraphQL file is available in the root directory. As of now, we are in subfolders, right? So what I will do is I will open this SubQuery test project in my VS Code so that it will be easier to do that. Because I'm into SubQ1 now. You can see I'm into SubQ1. I want my SubQuery test to be the main project. So I will open this folder. So use SubQ1, be inside that. Don't be in a subfolder. So make sure that your project name is your main folder and say new terminal. And this is where you will push your project. Okay, what are the steps to push that project? It's very easy. You can just say git init, do that, and git init. You're initializing this project, and that's done. So you can see all this have been indexed. Next, you can add a README file, which I don't have it as of now, and I can just say copy this, paste. Of course, we can type it, but since I'm lazy, I'm just doing it. Okay, oh, so we have to basically add all the files. I should have added the git ignore file, but that's okay. And I will say commit, first commit. And you can see all this file has been committed in my local. And now it's time to push it on the repository. Now where you want to push this, I want to push this in a main branch. So let me create a main branch, and then I can just connect with my remote here. You can just follow the steps and it will be pushing your project on GitHub. And this is not the GitHub session, this is SubQuery, so I'm just doing this thing very fast. And the moment you do that, you can see everything is indexed or everything is pushed on the server. How do I verify that? I can just refresh this page and the code should be available. You can see the code is available, everything is here. Awesome. So yeah, so your README file is also available to see how to run this project. Awesome. In fact, next time when you try this, just use my repository and you can pull the project. Even that works. Cool. So once everything is here, once we have our GitHub repository, let's go back to our SubQuery network, and here select the database. Now, since we are into free plan, the only option you will get is share database. So select that. Next option is the deployment source. Now, since we are doing for the first time, we are going to use GitHub as our deployment source. So select GitHub, and that's it. Click on create project and you're done. It was so simple, right? So we got our project on the project, but then it's not properly deployed. You can see it's there, but then we need to deploy to the production. So till this point, we were only able to create the project, right? It's time to deploy it. So what you can do is you can click on deploy to the production slot. Now it will ask you for some certain things, which branch you want to go for. So I want to go for main branch, and which commit. So you can select, we only have one commit, so we can use that. And then it will also ask you for the endpoints. If you want to change the endpoint, you can mention that here, but as of now, we don't want to do anything new. So keep the endpoints as it is, keep the dictionary point as it is. So currently we are using Polkadot. Then we have to specify the indexer version. So currently I'm going for the top version, which is 1.1.2, latest one, and the query version as well, 1.1.1. Again, I always believe when you're learning for the first time, don't make any weird changes. Make sure it is working for the version specified, and then you can do experiment. Okay, done. Nothing to change here as well. Query service looks good, indexer service looks good, and both after that, click on deploy update. The moment you say deploy, it may take some time. It will give you that of course it will say success, but if you see it says processing. So it will take some time. By the time it is doing some processing, let's understand the entire dashboard here. So basically the first thing it will mention is your project name. Remember this name because when you make it public, this is a name which everyone can see. Next, this will be also having your GitHub repository URL, which you can see here. And it will also mention what database you are using. So we are using share database. Next, this is important, as I mentioned before. For my old project also, we got the hash value. This is hash value. Of course, this will be useful when you redeploy your project. And then it will give you the default query endpoint, which we have here. Again, it will not work now because it's into processing. Once it is over, it will be saying, hey, it is available for you, so you can use it. As of now, we don't even have the endpoints mentioned here. Yeah, so basically we have to wait for this processing to get over. Okay, so processing is done, and you can see it is in running state. It took some time, around 7 to 8 minutes to do that, but then finally it is working. There might be some issue. The only problem at this point is you can see the indexing is 0. It just started, so it will take some time. But again, right, you will not do this every time. This is done only once, or maybe for the new update. Once indexing is done, you can start the query. In fact, I will not even wait. I just want to explore the Explorer. So how do we explore the project here? So remember this name, which is SubQuery Telusko. I will just copy this, and we can go to explorer.subquery.net, and so you can see we have all the other projects available, but my project is into community projects. So I can just paste it here, and you can see the project is available. And of course, the moment you say it's running, it will be available in your SubQuery Explorer. So click on that, and you can see it is just started indexing the first few files already indexed. 721 files I haven't been indexed. Oh, that's not MB, that's actually million of things. My bad. And now this is the query available. And now if I run this query, and let's see how many files you get. As of now, it's empty. Let it do this at least some indexing. So basically the project is deployed. The network is Polkadot. It is doing the indexing and it's taking some time. Okay, so finally we got our first file. Of course, if you wait for more time, it will give you the files or the result which you're expecting. So you can see we only got one file here. But again, wait for some time and let me know in the comment how much time it is taking for you. But total number of entries is only one now, and that's why you got only one entry. Okay, cool. So that's how you deploy your project on this SubQuery network, and it will be available in the Explorer. So steps to remember: whenever you create a project, make sure that your project is there on the GitHub, and we have seen the steps as well. And these steps is actually available in the GitHub itself. The moment you create a new repository, you will get all these steps. Just copy those steps and so run this. And yeah, that's what I was talking about. Your current plan is limited to 2 projects, right? If you want more plan, you have to upgrade. But even normally we work with 1 project, right? So that should work. If you want dedicated database, again, you have to do the purchase for that. You have to pay for it. Cool. So that's your SubQuery network, SubQuery publishing on the network, and we have also explored that on Explorer. So that's about the Explorer. In fact, I want to talk about one more thing. What if you want to learn more about GraphQL? Because we have been working on REST API for a long time and we are happy with it, but we got GraphQL as well, and this is actually exciting. So you can also go to graphql.org learn page, and you can access all the documentation here. It's actually quite fun to work with GraphQL. Yes, at the initial stage, you have to do extra setup, which we don't need for REST API. But trust me, whenever you fire the queries, whenever you request for data, instead of getting everything, you can specify what exactly you want in the query itself. Now, how many languages it supports? You can go to graphql.org/code, and these are the languages it supports now. And it supports Java. I'm happy with that. And we got JavaScript, PHP, Go. In fact, major languages have been supported, right? And there are steps here to access it. So yeah, this is about publishing and GraphQL. In the upcoming videos, we'll create some more projects to understand how do we work with external events and those stuff. So that's it from this video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comment section and do subscribe. Bye-bye.